Welcome back, everyone. We are here to bring you round number one of the Pokemon Regional Championship Cologne. Yeah, I'm David Hofmann, joined by Martin Wagner. And yeah, we picked two players who had a lot of success in the past. So we will be featuring Rick Verwaal against Jack Old.
Yes, Rick Verwaal from the Netherlands versus Jake Gold from Great Britain, and I'm really excited because we don't know what these players are going to bring to the tournament just yet, but as soon as they get ready with their setup and flip over their cards, yeah, we'll know.
Yeah, so we don't have the deck list currently, but we will take a closer look at the players in a short time. Yeah, until now, we don't really know what they're playing. This is a very first round, very interesting match for them especially. Just arrived here in the hall, very first game on stream. So here, dreams can stop. But it will be, I think it's for the players as well. It's a very big achievement to win the biggest regional championship
Yes.
we ever had. So the numbers are actually very great. So like we already said in the introduction, we are about 750 masters. Once round one is finished, we can give you the exact number as well. So such a big tournament, a lot of rounds. So I really hope they prepared well.
Yes, I hope so too. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the kicker for top 256 points, which is like 800 players, but it's still fine, and it's really important. Like when you're playing in such a big regional, you need to start off round one with the win. It's really, really important to get a strong start, and because your opponents will not get easier, so you need to start off very strong.
So here we are currently, everyone is setting up. It's still a secret which decks they are actually playing. Yeah,
Yes.
so on the left side we have Jack Old from the United Kingdom. He is part of Complexity Card Gaming Pokemon. I don't think he's there as a player, I think he's there as a content manager. But nonetheless, he is part of this team. There are also some other members who are very strong. Jack Old is also involved in the in Joe Bernard's YouTube channel,
Okay.
the Omnipoke. They did this together. I'm not entirely sure if that's actually still up to date, but definitely some players to look out for. Rick Verwaal was actually very strong when I still played, but he recently also got back, got a bunch of League Cup successes, also regional championships. We used to have a slide where we can show you some of the achievements as well. Currently we're still setting that up. Yeah, we're getting excited for this game. So we see the starting hands. I see some red, just like
Yes,
expected.
a lot of red. Nice.
But is this a Naganadel? Oh wait, let's not try to assume. Let's just see how this round is going. So now they're also placing their prize cards. So in a bit we will also be able to look at these, and yeah.
Oh, two
like I
Poipo
saw,
prize.
2 Poipo is not amazing. So for
Is this
Jack?
probably Blacephalon and with a heavy Naganadel with Turtonator?
Yeah, there are
with
2 Turtonators in the
heavy
prize card.
Turtonator? Yes.
Oh boy, this is not looking too amazing. For Rick on the side, well, Escape Boards, of course, a very great card together with Jirachi, but if they're in the prize cards,
Yes, it might be a
usually
little
doesn't
bit
cost you
difficult.
the game. It's really annoying at the beginning when you want access to these cards, and the chance is very, very low to draw into them. But other than that, these look like pretty fine prize cards. Like 190 probably plays 2,
Yes.
but he still has access to that. So we are about to start the round. But what do you think about Blacephalon in general? Like,
I think Blacephalon is a really strong deck, and it has like this advantage: if it draws well enough, it can beat almost anything. So if you get these really nice hands in the beginning, where you draw a lot of cards and set up a lot of Naganadels, then the deck has so many options, and it has such an advantageous price trade against these tag team Pokemon. So Yeah, it's really strong. And I think Jake Old put more focus on one price attackers with Turtonator, which has a really similar attack to Blacephalon, but it doesn't actually put the energy in the Lost Zone, so it puts it into the discard pile, which is really great because you can just pull the energy back out of the discard pile with Naganadal's charging up ability, which will be hard to set up with 2 Poipole in the prizes,
Yeah,
but
but we will see about that. So the Cephalon, of course, it only needs 2 energy cards, and you can use Beast Ring, which is very strong for setting up. But now you have also Welder in the format, so setting up a Turtonator doesn't sound too difficult. You just need Welder to energy and attach, and like Martin said, you can get the energy back from the discard pile. With Persephone, they go into the Lost Zone, they're gone, you always need new energy and you always need to bring these new energy cards in the discard pile. But with stronger focus on non-GX attackers, you can also use a little bit of a different strategy, and of course you only give up 1 prize card.
yes, and also Naganadel and Turtonator are both searchable with Mysterious Treasure, so that search card comes in very strong.
Oh yeah, that's actually very nice. I always forget that Mysterious Treasure is also able to search your deck for Dragon Pokemon. So great synergy there. I'm really excited to see how this plays down. So Blacephalon is actually interesting because it was second place at the Pokemon World Championship. I also saw that it's getting one of these World Championship deck prints as well,
Yes, really interesting.
piloted by Ito Shintaro. But after that, I didn't really see it a lot being played.
Yeah, it kind of dropped down in usage. It got top 4 at the Sheffield Regionals, but other than that, I don't think it has made like a lot of appearances.
Yeah, so there's a standing ovation. 726 players just announced in the Masters division. We will have a lot of Pokemon being played.
Yes, I'm
I'm
excited.
very looking forward to this. So with so many players in such a difficult field, it will be very difficult for everyone to get to the top, but also it will be filtered very strongly. So yeah, I'm very looking forward to that. There are currently announcements going on, so everyone has to wait for that a little bit. Yeah, we were just talking about Blacephalon, kind of really with the Blacephalon was quite strong before Welder was even released because you had Beast Ring.
Yes.
And it was quite fast. And then with Welder and also Charizard Reshiram, like Fire decks had this option, and now Blacephalon has everything as well. So very, very strong deck in theory, but yeah, usually
But
because yeah.
it also can stumble sometimes, like if you just draw the cards in the wrong order, if you have all your Naganadels in the beginning of the game and you don't get down any Poipoles. So that is like the weakness of these setup decks, which require stage 1s to work. If you play Reshizard, you just get down your Reshizard, your big basic, Welder onto it, and you're usually good to go for the first turn. And yeah, you don't need a lot. You only need 2 or 3 cards to get going. But Blacephalon needs a bit more to be in the game, and if it doesn't draw well, it can be shut down very easily, because if you lose access to Beast Rings before you can use them, it becomes really difficult to take knockouts on these big tag teams.
Yeah, so in general, there used to be kind of balance between evolution Pokemon, and then you have stage 2 Pokemon, stage 1 Pokemon, and they're waving someone. And then also the big basic Pokemon. But currently, because of the tag team, there's a very strong focus on basics. And as a general rule, basic decks are way more consistent. Like Martin said, the moment you have your Reshiram in play, you just need to attach energy cards, you're good to go. You can already start doing something. So the chance for you to draw in a really bad hand are quite low. You play a very low amount of Pokemon usually, and you have a lot of options, so you have more space for energy cards. So even if you only have energy and a Reshi there, you attach 3 times, you can still attack. So as long as the opponent doesn't run too hot, there's still something you can do. With evolution decks, you can draw into a bunch of stage 2s, and then maybe you get energy, so you can't do anything. The basic Pokemon that evolve are usually not that strong. I'm really a big fan of basic Pokemon that can search you for something, draw some cards. So if you're left with a bad hand, then at least the basic Pokemon can help you a little bit with that. Poipo can't really do it. Poipo can look at your prize cards.
It can poison your opponent as well, which is kind of useful. But Oh, and we see the cards being flipped over.
Alright,
Heatran and
so
Jirachi.
let's just jump into this game. Jack ult starts with a Heatran, so very interesting list. I'm excited. It will be interesting to see if we. So just on a glimpse, I don't see any Blacephalon actually.
So it might be
So it
just
might
the
be a very
Turtonator.
interesting Turtonator Naga deck. Excited to see how it plays out. So he opens with Mysterious Treasure, and now he will see his prize cards, which is very sad.
Yes.
And these kind of games are very annoying to win. You can see his face. He knows this will be a hard game to play. But on the other hand, of course, you want to scoop games that you don't really see a winning option in. And he actually would.
He's just gonna fail the treasure.
So it seems like maybe a 2-2 Naganagel, 2 Turtonator.
Yes.
So it's a very interesting Welder deck. And Rick is very excited to see this as well. Your opponent opening with a searcher deck for any Pokemon, basically. Card, and your opponent's just like, well, there's nothing in it.
And the rest of his hand, oh, he draws into the Nagan in the starting hand as well, which is, as already mentioned, is kind of suboptimal. And he has to throw it away with the dead change because his hand is dead otherwise.
Yeah, but now his hand is also, there's no supporter card. He can play the Cherish Ball, I think it's called. You search his deck for Pokemon GX, but this is a desperation move. He just goes for a switch, puts Heatran back, safe on the bank, sacrificing this. He still doesn't know what Rick is playing, but if your opponent opens Jirachi, I would usually assume it's more likely to be Charizard Reshiram deck, which he also reveals to his opponent, opening up with Giant Furnace to search his deck for 2 Fire Energy cards. I'm still not used to the English card names yet, so maybe I will miss a few there, but his start looks very strong. Going for the Stadium first here allows him to thin out his deck, get rid of some energy cards, then he can use Stellar Witch on a higher percentage of getting what he wants. Also, he already now has an idea if there is something important in the prize card, so he can make better decisions on Stellar Wish.
Yeah, that's true as well.
That's a pretty strong move there. We see a Welder, we see a Charge Ball as well.
Yeah, probably gonna grab the Cherish Ball because he wants to get down his Pokemon.
Yeah, so if he already had a Pokemon in his hand, then we know he has energy in hand, so the Welder would have probably been the better choice here. But of course, if you don't have any Pokemon to attach your energy to, then, well, getting the Pokemon in first is way more important, as well as setting up your supporter cards to draw cards. So he didn't take the Welder. Probably there's something in his hand, so he can still continue to draw cards.
Yes.
But of course, Jack doesn't know this. There is a difference between, like, when your opponent knows which kind of decision you are making, then he can understand a little bit about your hand cards, a little bit about your game plan. But since they don't know which cards they did, since they didn't know which cards they did not take, there is no information gained for him.
And he already has the Welder in hand and can start attaching energy and loading up his Charizard and drawing cards, as you said.
All right. And he has a perfect dream start. I was just about to say that his start looks very good. He opens with Jirachi, gets the Welder down. That would have been fun already, right?
Yeah,
so
but
like
he even has the switch.
He has a switch.
Even though 2 escape was uprise, he gets the switch.
So
no problem.
And now he applies a lot of pressure onto Jack. Jack didn't get energy with Welder in his first turn. He has
just
no access to his Poipole, no access to his Turtonators. So he is kind of in a very problematic position in these kind of games. So for Jack's first turn, like, of course it didn't make any sense to scoop there because, well, you don't know, maybe Rick just passes. So Jack will probably just be like, okay, let's see. If I lose this game, it will be very quick anyways. So let's try. Maybe I draw into a few perfect hands, and maybe Rick's hand at this point doesn't really include any more good cards. So Jack can just try and see if Rick maybe doesn't really have a strong hand. And now Jack goes for his second data change. Of course, in his first turn, he might have been able to use it, but because the ability prevents 2D Energy X abilities to be used in the same turn to prevent these very strong combo decks from running too hot. that wasn't an option for Jack, even though it would have been kind of fair because you needed to discard so much stuff that it would have been fine.
Yeah.
And now Jack in a really weird spot. So for him to be able to attack, he would need a welder, but then also that would just do some damage against Reshiram. Rick, the stadium card is in. Okay, the stadium card is in place, so Rick definitely has access to fire energy to just to just attach and get the knockout. And then, well, there is no way for Jack to take the knockout at that point. So if he doesn't attack here, well, I don't really see him getting this game out. But he did draw a welder, so he is able to use either Steaming Stomp or Hot Burn GX. Hot Burn would deal a whopping 150 damage, so I don't think there is actually a big difference between that. Of course, the Hot Burn would actually put him almost into the position for getting Outrage, is 10 short. So yeah.
Also, I think he had to discard 2 Mysterious Treasure with his Dedenne, just because there's nothing else he could search for in his deck, which is rather unfortunate. But he has to switch into the Jirachi. Even though if he doesn't get anything off the Stellar Wish, he can just leave this Jirachi in the active and sack it, and because his opponent doesn't have down Vulpix,
yeah, exactly. So
can't
unless
get Ninetales on the board.
Well, like, there is no, like, in theory you would think like, okay, maybe my opponent can just get into a double catcher, but you see the Jirachi is in play, so there's no way this is a greens build, which means the Heatran is now very safe on the bench. After the rotation, of course, Guzma left us, and now bench Pokemon are a lot safer than they used to be. They can finally just be on the bench and just, you can usually kind of know when your opponent is going to is able to take anything from your bench, but Jack is actually not deciding to leave the Jirachi active and just goes for the Steaming Storm. So
he puts on a little bit of pressure because he knows if he doesn't start attacking, he's gonna lose very soon. So
yeah, and also if the Jirachi is knocked out, Rick is down 3 prize cards. That is just 1 knockout on a tag team GX. If the Heatran gets knocked out, he's down to 2 prize cards. So he would need to be. He would need to have the Ninetales in play as well to get the Dedenne GX. Not too likely with the current board position, and definitely something you would hope that your opponent maybe doesn't have access to. And then in the next turn as well, Jack can probably take the knockout. He has a skateboarded Jirachi on his bench, so he just needs a welder. The furnace is it actually called furnace?
The stadium?
Yes.
The stadium is called
no, I mean
Factory.
the
Giant Hearth.
Yeah, Giant Hearth.
Yeah.
The Giant Hearth is not in play, so the Jirachi would just not need to give him the welder, but also access to energy cards. There are some in his, at least 2 in his discard pile. There are 3 in his discard pile, so he would get the 3 energy just with a crystal. Not sure if he even plays them because, well, you have Naganagel to get energies back. So, but let's see how Rick's turn is going down. So he gets the Vulpix and also
the
energy.
Vulpix is really important, I think, because it allows him to chase down whatever he needs to chase on this next turn and just win the game if he gets down Ninetales and there's the 2 energy in his hand. So he puts Jack in a position where he isn't able to stall out the game with just leaving 1 prize active. So yeah, it allows for really quick finish. Also, we see another threat come down, which is really important since the Reshizard will get knocked out probably after this turn. So we see the Baby Blacephalon and the Welder come down onto it, and he has already a threat built up for his next turn, which can take the last prizes and finish off the game.
Yeah, so you can, I think all the viewers at home can also see the win condition. Just use Flare Strike, take the knockout on Heatran, go down to 2 prize cards. So now he just needs to take the Dedenne, and as long as he has access to that, then he wins the game. So Dedenne 160 HP, the Blacephalon would need to discard 4 energies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so he only needs, well, it sounds kind of easy now when you see it this way, but he would still need a bunch of energy in his turn. He would have to discard 2 for the ability, and then also discard 4 for the attack. So a bunch of energy involved here, but we're talking about a welder deck.
Yeah, but he just needs to draw into 1 fire crystal and a fire energy. That doesn't sound too bad. Like if the Reshizard gets knocked out, 4 energies go to the discard pile, and he just needs the 1 energy for attachment and a fire crystal and the 1 energy in hand, and then he has the knockout already because the fire crystal can get back the 3 fire from the discard pile. So
Yeah, so with Jirachi on the bench.
yeah, and did
he
it change
actually got-
available?
Yeah, he also got the escape route now from the discard pile, so
Yeah.
he has a very high chance. But like we said, the advantage you get from conceding a game is the time. And this game is pretty fast, like not a lot happens.
Yes.
So for Jack, as long as he can make his decisions fast in this game, he can just try out. Maybe, maybe the last 2 prize cards for Rick are Ninetales, or maybe he doesn't get the Ninetales in play at all. Also, Jack is now trying to take the knockout with his Victini. Like I said, there are at least 3 in the discard pile, but it seems like there are actually a lot more.
Yeah, he discarded his hand turn 1, which was a lot of fire energy.
Yes. So let's see how much damage this Infinity is doing. 7 energy right there, so
it is enough for the knockout. Put all the energy back into the deck, which is I don't know. It's kind of a strange situation because you want the fire energies back, obviously, but it makes your Stellar Wish a lot weaker.
yeah. Also, just your top deck will be fire energies
Yes.
a lot of the time, so it's like a double-edged sword. But well, if he uses, it's very hard for him to attack with the Russian Charizard. But let's see just if Rick is able to pull off the win this turn. He's counting his fire energy in hand, and
Yeah, that's really important all the time. Just count your fire energy. Never miscount with Victini or Babel or Cephalon or Ninetales or anything. Like, I've played this deck before, and the 18 energy version, and sometimes even 18 energy is not enough and you're 1 energy short to win the game.
but actually, I think he has a fire crystal in hand as well.
So,
he has
yeah,
4 fire energy, so he has 7
It
energy.
should be enough.
Discard 2, attach 1, discard the rest. Looks like he's just making sure he's doing everything correct. Yeah, so he goes for 9 Temptations onto the Energy X. Fire Crystal gets 3 energy back, so he just needs to discard 4 and win the game.
Yes.
And he has a last energy in his hand as well. Retreat.
Just the perfect hand with the
Fireball
fire decks.
Circus.
Yes.
And what a circus indeed. This was a very unfortunate deck. So, well, like Rick saw the Naga, so he kind of knows what's up. And he probably, he definitely understands that for, if your opponent turn 1 goes for Mysterious Treasure for nothing and then discards his Naga from the hand,
Yes.
well, you kind of,
You
you
know.
already expect to win that game. So for Rick, very easy game 1. Jack did his best to try and get the win somehow still. Didn't work out that well, but I really appreciate that he did. So it's like, I think it's actually a very difficult situation to know which games do you concede and which games do you not concede. And there are a lot of factors involved in this. So Jack Old, from the beginning, he knew, well, I will be fighting from the back. And then like in the very first surge, he already knew, well, this would be a hard game. And Rick just gives him the turn 1 knockout with 3 energy on his Reshiram Charizard. But you know, like you can try to get these games still running.
Also, you get information on your opponent's deck,
Yeah.
right? If you play out the first few turns. So yes, just see what he's playing, what version of the ability Reshizard your opponent runs, and hopefully Jack will be able to execute his game plan a little bit better with better prizes. And yeah, I think Naganadel makes Turtonator actually really strong. Sometimes it's lacking a bit in these builds that are not as heavy on the Reshizard as some others are, because your opponent can target down the energy. But even if he targets down the energy, Naganadel can just bring them back. So I think the Naganadel edition makes the Turtonator a lot stronger.
Yeah, so let's see if we will see actually a Naganagel in play using the ability to attach fire energy cards back from the discard pile. So we can see these big Turtonator knockouts. We only see one non-price, non-GX attacker from Wick, which was the Lucephalon. You would expect your opponent to play Victini as well, and here we see Rick actually starting with it. Not an ideal starter, but well,
the prizes don't look too bad this time for both players. Like Welder Prize, it's fine. To Cherish Ball might be a little bit hard to get out Jake's Pokemon and still have access to the dinner, but it should be fine.
Yeah, so Jack now just opening his first turn with the Pokemon Communication. I saw a Psychic Pokemon being put back. It looks like a Mewtwo. I'm not entirely sure. So well, let's see if if that actually comes back. Yeah, prize cards, like just said, looks very fine for both players. Like a normal, what you would expect. Like of course you want the Cherish Balls now. Also one of the Reshiram Charizard are in the prize cards for Rick.
So we actually don't know if he plays 2, right? If this is his only one, it might be a little bit of an issue, but
Yeah, this is also very interesting because we see the art in the prize cards is the same art he used. It's the alternative one, and some people mix up their artworks, and it really depends on the format. But as a general rule, it doesn't make sense to play different arts of any card. Especially, so for example, game 1, your opponent opens with a regular art Reshiram Charizard and just uses that one to win the game. And then game 2 he flips over and it's an alternative art, so you know he definitely plays 2.
yes.
And that already tells you a little bit about the deck. For a lot of decks you can already kind of know how many counts your opponent is playing, but now especially with tag team Pokemon, a lot of people only like play 1, so maybe his build would have been with only 1 Reshiram Charizard and a lot of focus on these non-GX attackers, which we've seen also being tried out quite a lot.
Yeah, it has gotten some success at Cups over in North America, I think.
Yeah, so
See
if
the Heat Factory come down, allows to draw a lot of cards this turn. As Jake also has access to Stellar Wish, so I think he's good to go for now. Debating whether today they change his hand away, but so we see, since we see the custom catcher, he doesn't play Ninetales, which is reasonable since he already has the Neganadals as his like S1 prizer, and there's not a lot of bench space left if you play Naganadel, Jirachi, Dedenne, and yeah, there's just no bench space. But custom catcher and Dedenne don't go very well together, I think, because a lot of the time you just need to Dede change one of them away in the early game if you just have it in your opening hand and your opponent has no bench, just like in this situation. We see the attachment for turn come down on the Poipor and retreat into Jirachi, going for the Stellar Wish. Maybe Giant Hearth would be good here to just get some fire energy in his hand, or even hold it for next turn.
That's the first turn, so he can't play it down.
Yeah, I know. Just hold it for next turn.
But this is also really weird if you both play the same stadium cards. So it gives you like a little bit, like you can thin out your deck, because when you play, it will always come back and you can never actually play it down. So it's a dead card. There isn't much that discard, so in older formats you always had Ultra Ball, where you'll be like, okay, let's just get rid of this, Ultra Ball, rotate it out. So it's super weird if there is a stadium card in play and both players just play a bunch of these.
Yeah, I know. Like in the Maloma Mirror, just both players have 3 Viridian Forests in their hand by the end of the game because, yeah, they can't get rid of it.
So we saw the Stellar Witch, the Jirachi wakes up, which is almost never relevant. Because you usually want to switch out of it, but of course sometimes you have to attach for fire energy, which isn't too bad for Jake since he can re-get the fire energy from the discard pile. Also
he plays Downheatran, so I thought that was Reshizard, but it wasn't. Oh, throws away the pad on turn 1, which is not that optimal because you want to have access to Welder late game and shuffle back in the ones you used. But actually, even if he whiffs Welder right here, I don't see one in his hand right now, he could get knockout with the Baby Blacephalon and the first attack for 1 energy if he flips over fire energy. Yeah, so that would be a cheap way to get a knockout.
That would be very, very funny if that actually happens. And he has to attach from his hand. Jack's board is kind of weird because there's no Pokemon in play yet, and Rick probably doesn't really, like, I don't know what Rick is actually expecting the opponent to play. Usually you see, okay, there are some Naga, so there's probably Blacephalon on these strings, but he didn't see any B-string in the first in the first game, and it looks like Rick is actually going for it. Let's hope he turns the right track.
I mean, he has a chance of 1/3, so
yeah.
Maybe he doesn't even go for it. He just retreats into Dedenne and sacks it.
So he is looks like he is actually thinking about it. Um, yeah, kind of a weird decision. If you go all in now, you might destroy your opponent's setup, but the gain is
Yeah,
not
yeah. He
probably
just
not too much.
takes the conservative approach and just passes with the Dedenne in the active.
Yeah, so now for Jack, I don't really think it's very likely for him to have a attacker in play. He would need energy cards, which I don't think he has. I think he has only one in his hand. So for any Pokemon to attack with, he would need a Welder. He could go for a second Naganagel, then use the ability and attach for a hand to just deal a random, I think it's 80 damage on the Dedenne, which doesn't really
It doesn't
do
really accomplish
much.
anything.
Yeah, for that to conspire into anything useful, he would need to use a double catcher.
Oh yes,
At
the
some
combination
point.
of communication and Cherish Ball to just get
The Turtonator.
get the Turtonator the hard way. Could have played Mysterious Treasure,
Yeah,
but
this
he
is
doesn't have
the
one, so
low budget Mysterious Treasure. And I don't think he has a supporter card in his hand, so
no,
kind
like the discussion becomes: do you want to Heat Factory away the fire energy, the only fire energy in your hand, or do you want to go for Stellar Wish? And you need Welder and Giant Half, so you can't get both of the Stellar Wish. So it becomes really difficult. Yeah, what the optimal route of play would be.
yeah. And also, what also factors in, he has the Dana GX in his hand, which he definitely does not want to bench. But he also has a single custom catcher, so in theory he could actually draw one card with it if he decides to attach the energy before. But if he attaches before, then oh, he actually looks
He
like he
attaches.
is going for it. And he
Just
actually just goes for a straight
did it,
then did
yeah.
not want to try out to draw something with the custom catcher because he knows he will have to discard it
But
probably.
still no fire energy in his hand.
No fire energy. This is very unfortunate, but he still has the Stellar Wish. He got one of the welders.
But now the unfortunate thing becomes, if you hit the Giant Heart of the Stellar Wish, you just discard your own Heat Factory without using it in the turn, right? He didn't use it,
It
which
is
is
quite unfortunate.
feels bad.
But it's better than
Yeah, obviously.
being forced to. And then also he has and now he has a treasure in his hand and also welder, so he can actually attack with Turtonator.
Get the knockout with
And
Turtonator, yes.
Well, his second Naganagel is prized, so yeah, it doesn't really help him that that he does have the treasure in hand, so he can't even go for the second Naganagel, unfortunately. But he will be able to attach to. He just needs to discard them from the active, which is something like. This is also a very interesting decision because when you kind of expect your opponent to knock it out, then discarding from the active is the better play because they will be gone at the end of the turn anyways. But also, you don't need Welder if you keep them and kind of gamble like, oh, maybe my opponent doesn't even get the knockouts, so I can just leave them at the active. Only discard from my bench Pokemon. So this is also an interesting decision to make. Rick only needs a Welder, and he will be able to get probably be able to get the knockout with the Blacephalon. Maybe even set up anything else. I think Turtonator has 110 HP. Right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so
110.
pretty much. Well, this is actually quite weird because you need to discard 3 energy cards, even though the HP from Turtonator is
I think I would like going
high.
in with Heatran.
Yeah,
Probably.
Heatran can also just deal 130, and then also take out the threat. And Jack actually goes. He expects the opponent to take a knockout, so he just for Rick it didn't really play out as well as he wanted it. So he kind of hoped that the Dedenne will not be knocked out. But now at least, well, it's gone from the bench. He doesn't have any Dedenne in play now, so the custom
Jack
catchers
is
don't become
finally
as
in the
strong.
lead. This game he is able to pull ahead for the first time. As we see, Victini with the skateboard being retreated into Jirachi for Stellar Wish.
Yeah, kind of a sad play to promote Victini and retreat into Jirachi.
Yes.
He can still retreat and attack. Like he can't retreat, but he can use switch to still attack. And he goes for, yeah, what we just talked about, a giant hearth, which, well, he can't play. It's just a card that is now out of the deck. So you're happy it's not in the deck anymore, but
Yeah,
you
I
can't really
guess.
do much with it. Yeah, let's see how his hand looks like in general.
A lot of
He has
fire crystals,
two
right?
fire
Yeah.
crystals. He has 2 in the discard pile, so he can use them. If he has a welder, then can attack with Heatran if he's able to find a switch. Oh wait, he actually does have a switch in his hand. Does he have the Welder though?
I don't see the welder yet because probably he has to go for
Yeah, he has
did
to
they
go for
change if he
Dedenne.
want to if he wants to hit it. Yeah. No, he needs to draw into the welder.
And
And
does not look like he did.
no.
Ouch. So even if he uses a GX attack, there's only 100 damage.
Yeah,
so you have
it's 10 short
short.
of knocking out the
And then
Turtonator.
also you need to use a GX attack.
But actually, I don't think if Jack doesn't have a switch, oh, he's just gonna scoop it up. Okay, fine. I was about to talk about Turtonator with 3 retreat being stuck in the active, but it's fine. He's just gonna scoop it up.
Yeah, I mean for Rick, he like using the GX attack made no sense at all because you can 2-hit knockout, but the second attack will also be a 1-hit knockout no matter which Pokemon with which Pokemon you attack, and you lose like the first from Bucephalon, but that's a little bit of a desperation move, I think. So for Rick also, he knows, well, this game, in theory I can win, but if Jack, just needs Welder to basically completely knock me out. Jack still had 3 of his custom catcher left.
Yeah.
Wait, no, actually,
He had 2 left, but that is still enough for one gust.
Exactly,
so
to just take out a knockout, so Rick will just the whole game be like, well, maybe Rick will think, well, Jack, if he doesn't have the custom caster, then I can still do something.
Yes.
But then they both waste their time, so let's just go
yeah,
into
I think
game 3.
it's fine scooping up right there.
Yeah.
Having 23 minutes for a game 3. I mean, if both players like play around with their 1 prize attackers and actually don't get down the Reshizard very early, the price trade becomes really slow because the best you can do is gust up Dedenne with either Ninetales or Catcher and knock it out, which is like you invest a lot of resources to just get 2 prizes, which doesn't feel very good. You want to use your gust effects to KO those big tag teams as soon as they come down. So yeah, if one of them starts with Reshizard, I think it would be a huge disadvantage in this matchup. It could be very bad, but I still think playing 1 or even 2 is fine in the deck right now.
So game 3 about to start. This time Rick will go first. It's like you said, it's very difficult matchup to navigate because Jack is able to take very, well, not easy knockouts, but fine knockouts with his Turtonators. His deck is kind of, they didn't put press cards yet. Oh, they're not finishing setting up.
Yes.
So, yeah,
There's a mulligan.
Jack's deck is, the idea behind this deck is being able to 1-hit knockout, tag team GXs with his non-GX Pokemon. So Rick, of course, doesn't really want to use his tag team. Like maybe at the end, that's fine to like use.
Just finish off something with 200 for 3 energy.
HP.
Yeah.
I don't know if Rick plays Stamp, the reset Stamp, but for him, the Heatran can take a 1-hit knockout, the Bucephalon can take a 1-hit knockout. I think there are some Reshiram Charizard players who also use a single Turtonator. So if you have access to that, you can like maybe trade a little bit, but then also you're just making your deck very similar to Jack's deck. But Jax just works better because he has the Naganagel, so he can just recover his energy cards, way easier access to that. Yeah, so let's see the last game of this match conspire. Rick actually going first, starting with Volcanion.
You actually want to go second with Volcanion, right?
Volcanion is super weird in these builds. So in the green build, you can play just 4 Volcanion, and then you will, most of the time, you will start with it. So a lot of games, it's just like, yeah, okay, like I can get this going with Volcanion if I don't go first. But if I go first, of course, yeah, well, I went first. That's the best thing currently in the format. So Volcanion, very interesting card. I think in the decks that don't play so many, it makes sense to play a single one because if you have communication and switch or communication escape rope, it's quite likely to get into it. But then also
you can easily get it into the active and use Flare Starter on your second turn.
Especially if you start a Jirachi, which, well, is quite likely.
But also, like, you usually want to use your communication for Vulpix, right? So the debate becomes, so what do you want to grab with communication? Get the Flare Starter out or get establish Vulpix for later Ninetales on your board?
Yeah, but I think in this matchup, Rick is actually quite happy that he plays Volcanion because
yeah,
he's able to take a 1-hit knockout on, well, he can right from the beginning. Volcanion is able to take one knockout, of course, on Jirachi, but it's also these exactly 110. So Turtonator gets knocked
Yeah, it's
out
really nice
as
in this
well.
matchup.
And so yeah, he plays the energy there. Often, like in a matchup where you don't really need the energy on a certain Pokemon, still at some point you can use Heatran and just get them away from there when you have to attach two Vulpix or something with Whirler just to draw cards.
Yeah, Heatran's ability is really good.
Yeah, so
Really good.
but in this matchup, Volcanion is a very strong attacker, especially since Rick can also started taking right from the next turn, taking out Jirachi from Jack. Jack will want to use his communications probably for Poipole, for maybe Turtonator to get energies to Poipoles. He needs to get the Naganagles in play. So Rick can kind of start steamrolling this game. Also for Rick, his hand is looking very good again. He got another Welder, he got some energy card.
He can even Stellar Wish after the Welder, which is really nice. Yes.
Yeah,
and I don't see a lot of stuff going on in Jack's hand actually. There's Custom Catcher, Heat Factory, but no like hard draw cards like Welder and Dedenne.
Well, I think he has a Heat Factory as well, so
yeah, he can draw three cards.
He can still go deeper and then also Stellar Wish on top of that. Now he can even use the Hearth first and then thin out his deck, then draw cards with Heat Factory and then also use Stellar Wish. So his hand is far from unusable, but we just need to see what he draws into now. And Rick is just going very hot.
Thinning out his deck really nice with like grabbing the fire energy of the Fiery Flint and getting them into his hand for probably Stellar Wish for Welder next turn, and
yeah, so he can Welder then Stellar Wish, and then the Stellar Wish can grant him another Welder, maybe Paul Pad or something else to draw. So if you have the fire energy, ideally you don't want them in your you want them in your hand to use them and also to not draw them. Now Jack is also. Well, this is like a sequencing issue again. Actually, with Pokemon Communication, this is also super interesting because most of the time it doesn't really matter if you play it first or later because it
doesn't thin out your deck because you put back a Pokemon, right?
It's so weird. But also on the other hand, if you draw cards first, so for example, if he uses the Hearth first, then uses the Stadium to draw cards, he can draw whatever he wants to search for on that draw, so and then he can make better decisions on your communication. So for the communication, you always have to think about, do I have enough information to make the call or not? But it never thins out your deck, which is kind of unfortunate. But actually, you can do the opposite. You can shuffle a Pokemon into your deck and then not search for anything.
Yes, which is really neat. If you have Dedenne, Communication and Victini in your hand, you often want to put the Victini back into your deck, which is a super nice synergy in these abilities art decks.
Yeah, but actually Jack had exactly that in his hand. He had the Victini, but he decided to go for the Naganagel because Naganagel is also something he doesn't want to discard. After the rotation, we lost Rescue Stretcher.
Yeah.
So since I'm pretty sure he uses a 2-2 list.
Pretty sure it's a 2-2 line.
He definitely plays 2-2 because he only plays 2 Poipoles, so why would you play 3 Naganagel then? But yeah, his first turn not looking too amazing. So he went for the Dedenne straight away.
I think it's fine because it allows him to just draw a few cards. Uses the Heat Factory, the Giant Hearth. Because he wants to replace it with Heat Factory anyway. So usually you want to data change first and then use the Stadium, but in this case he's just gonna replace it with Heat Factory and probably draw some cards before data change, or just get the energy into the discard pile. I'm not sure.
Let's see. Yeah, so he used it to thin out his deck, getting a better chance of drawing, which is also a bit weird because now he actually wants to draw Fire Energy. If he doesn't draw the Fire Energy now, then he can't use the Heat Factory, and he wants to use Heat Factory and then Stellar Wish.
Yeah.
But also, by discarding the energy first, well, I still don't know if he actually plays the Fire Crystal. Probably not. But
no, I don't think so.
In general, he might have then used Stellar Wish on the Fire Crystal, and then it would have actually given him better chances to draw an energy just to get some more cards with Heat Factory. That would be something to think about as well. But at the current board state, since we don't have, like we said, we don't have deck lists right now. We'll get them for later rounds, but
also,
I don't think.
Does he have Welder in hand?
No, I don't think there's any support at all.
Yes, there's no support out.
Yeah, so he will be. It looks like he drew a Poipo and mysterious treasure. So if he wants to, he can get 2 Poipos in play, and then also since he didn't Stellar Wish yet, so he can get even less Pokemon in his deck. But it looks like he's going for the Stellar Wish first. So maybe he decides to actually not use it at all. Maybe don't get a.
Then now he has the welder, but no fire energy. Gets the welder of the Stellar Wish and has the switch in hand, but there's no fire energy to welder
Yeah,
away.
such an irony. Like
Yeah.
you draw through your whole deck, you're looking for your welder buddy, and then he's there,
But
you can't.
without
Like you
fire.
can't really use. Like what's going on here? If there's nothing to weld, you can't use the welder. So really weird play. He can get the Cherish Ball, but also, what does he want to search for? He already Dana changed, and against Rick's deck, he doesn't want to have a second Dana on his bench as well, because that's one of his Rick's big winning options. Is just take out a few Danas from the bench.
Yeah, take out the 2 prizes and ignore the 1 prize attackers. I mean, if you ignore Turtonator, right, and you just gust around it all the time, since Turtonator will most likely discard all the energy from itself,
Yeah.
you need to welder onto it every single turn with 2 fire energy to be able to attack with it, which is also pretty difficult.
Yeah, and also you can just outplay your opponent, because your opponent, he knows. So from Jack's perspective, he knows if he doesn't discard the energy, he has to discard from the bench. But if he discards from the bench, he can only get 5 energy in play in total. That's 250. That's not enough to take a 1-hit knockout on Reshiram Charizard. But if he discards from the active, that would enable him for the next turn, given he has no energy in play, to take the knockout there. But then Rick can just take the knockout on the active Turtonator, and then he loses all his energy card. So he can always choose. And Jack always have to assume both. So he can't be like, well, it's very unlikely for him to get the knockout, because he knows, well, this Turtonator will get knocked out. But then he doesn't. He discards all energy from the active, and Rick can just snag. He can even just get a Naganagel, and then two Naganagels knocked out, similar to, I think, how you play against Malamar, where you're just like, well, I can just knock out a few Malamar, and then the Giratinas don't come back anymore. And Jack actually goes into the point pool now. So if Rick can just disable this option from Jack, then also he can win the game. So let's see if Rick is able to get a Vulpix in play, because he will definitely get the knockout on Poipole, the Volcanion.
For
he
sure.
has energy,
Yeah,
so
he will knock it out. For sure.
Yeah, and like I said, Rick is actually playing also Turtonator, so it's like kind of a weird mirror match where they play very different decks, but also they're kind of similar.
Yes, they use like the same cards, but in different ways. Like Naganadel is really interesting because it also makes Heatran stronger, right? You can just move all the energy of it and that you've charged up before, and then go for a big GX attack. Which, like, you won't use, since you will attack with your 1 prizers anyway, you won't use your GX attack very early, so having the option of getting a big GX knockout with Heatran is very good, but Naganadel has the disadvantage that it is a little bit slower, since you need to set up your stage once, and you will probably fall behind in the price trade.
Yeah, now there was actually a very interesting interaction, because Rick's Jirachi for 2 turns didn't, so it didn't wake up at the end of. Oh wait, he got the escape.
Oh, nice.
I was just saying, because if the Jirachi would have woken up, then Rick could have just retreated for an energy card. But yeah, since he got the retreat here, it's still a very almost perfect board state for Rick. He has no D-Dan in play, no Reshiram Charizard. Is able to take out the Poipo, very crucial card in the in the matchup as well. And now Jack can still do things, but he will always, compared to game 2, be always behind, because he will get this 1 energy less every turn.
Yeah, also Turtonator needs to discard 3 energy just to KO the Volcanion, which doesn't feel very good. Yeah, another Dedenne is probably gonna come down if he communications for it. Hopefully he will be able to maybe hit the Giant Earth of the Stellar Wish and get Fire Energy in his hand to welder. Yeah.
So is one of his Naganagel in the discard pile?
I'm not sure, but like he has no Poipo, right? Because he
Yeah, so
doesn't. He plays
he
two still.
promoted the Poipol earlier, so maybe even there is a Naga in this kit pile. Because he also just discarded Jirachi and his Mysterious Treasure. And since he doesn't get, I don't think he has any card to get the Poipol back from the discard pile, so usually you would have just thin out your deck. And this might have been the reason why he just sacrificed the Poipol earlier that turn, even
Yeah,
though
maybe.
it's such a crucial card. But, well, that still leaves him with a lot of less options. He's always kind of fighting from behind at that point. So, well, yeah, like we already talked about, they're playing the very similar deck. Jack's advantage is that he has the Naga, but once this Naga gets knocked out, Rick's deck is the same but stronger.
Well, there of the Stellar Wish, we see the reset stamp. I don't know if he's gonna take it here, but it's a really good inclusion because you expect to fall behind, right? If you play stage once, so playing at least one reset stamp to have the option to try for a comeback um, is really solid, I think.
Yeah.
And he got the knockout. He got the welder and the energy, and he will probably get the knockout. He can have even Paul pads. The welders in his discard pile back in if there are two. I don't know.
Well, so let's see.
Yeah, charging up.
But yeah, like you said, it's so weird because now he has to discard all the energy from his Turtonator just to take the knockout. And then Rick can just take the knockout with either Heatran or his own Turtonator. I mean, I would assume he takes the Heatran, but Rick still doesn't have Vulpix in play.
Yeah,
so
that's
Jack
really important.
knows, okay, my Naganagel is safe, so if either I don't get knocked out, that's fine by me, I can just play Welder and go to the next round. Or the active will get knocked out and then at least I didn't lose any energy cards, and then he can use Infinity maybe for a knockout depending on which Pokemon Rick actually attacks with. Yeah, so let's see how this is going down.
Yeah,
also,
finally the Vulpix comes down, so
yeah,
at least he has these options.
Yeah, sure. The Naganagel has an interesting attack, but I don't really think you really want to attack with it. If your opponent has 3 prize cards, right? Then you do 160.
Yeah, 160. Like if you need to knock out a one prizer, then it's probably quite good. Also, I think it's mainly there for. It could be there for Mewtwo matchup because it is weakness on Mewtwo. If they miss benching their, like if they don't bench their Jirachi GX, which like if you play against a fire deck, you usually just throw the Jirachi in the discard pile, and then you could get punished by the turning point really heavily.
Yeah, but in this matchup, like you would need to sacrifice the Naganagel with 3 energy. That's at least 5 energy you lose at the end of the game because your opponent will take the knockout there, then you miss the charging up for the next turn, and then your opponent will knock out whatever, and then you lose the next charging up. So you're sacrificing basically 5 fire energy. If you attack with Turtonator, that's 3 for basically the same damage. So very unlikely that he attacks with it, but I really like the attack. It's a super interesting just option that Blacephalon always has and still has.
Yeah.
And for Jack, it would probably not matter. Like you can knock out the Dedenne with it, so that would give him 1 energy less. But yeah, let's see how Rick's turn is looking like, and it's actually looking very strong. He got the Vulpix in play. He has some energy. He has 1 energy in his hand, so he can either attach it or use it with the Heat Factory. But he just goes for the attachment. He has a Fire Crystal, so he can, so he can even Welder and then also use the Heat Factory on top of that. So that's.
He can get a lot of fire energy into play this turn if he wants to, but maybe he's just gonna hold the hand and like conserve his resources for taking big knockouts on the Dedenne. I mean, if he doesn't bench any GX Pokemon, right, he just can go back to back Ninetales on the Dedenne and win the game in a few turns, maybe.
So Rick, he had the option to attach a bunch of energy this turn, maybe set up for the next thing that happens. But like Rick always just like Jack, Rick always has to think about like what happens with my Turtonator here. So if Jack doesn't get the knockout, just tries to set up a little bit or even get a double custom catcher on Vulpix, then you just don't have any energy cards in play. getting stamped is very unlikely, and even if you get stamped, it's not the end of the world. He got the hand attachment, that it just means that his welder and his fire crystal are on the deck now. He can draw them back anytime, but this way he sets himself up that he can use Stellar Wish again, so he can decide on, depending on what Jack does this turn, which Pokemon does he actually want to go for, which attacks does he want to use. So Jack has the option to just take the knockout with a Victini. Rick could then use his own Victini to take the knockout. Or maybe Rick gets a very good turn with his Ninetales. So yeah, like you just said, in theory he can just take out 2 Dedennes. But Rick still doesn't really know what makes the most sense now. So
Yeah,
I
obviously
really
he
like
just
him.
has to wait and see what his opponent does.
Yeah, so I really like him just not doing
Just
too
holding
much.
the hand, right, and
Yeah.
not going for Fire Crystal plus Welder.
Yeah, so, well, Jack did draw the Naganagel, so kind of unfortunate that he didn't thin it out earlier. Kind of missed the mark. He went for Welder on Victini, so he has to use Victini to take the knockout, shuffling all his Fire Energy cards back. And yeah, like we already said last game, then you just start drawing Fire Energies at all the times, which might
Yeah.
be good, but also there are a lot of other cards you really need to draw. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
you need like big combos in these kind of decks. Like, I mean, it seems simple just going Welder, Welder, Welder every turn, but you need switches, maybe custom catchers or Fire Energy to supplement it. So
yeah.
yeah.
So Jack, yeah,
Grabbing
here it
another
is.
Hearth.
Rip. Very annoying. But he can now attack with Infinity. So he did not charge up yet, right? So
No, I don't think he did.
maybe he doesn't have enough energy. It looks like he has exactly 6, so that's just enough for the knockout. Very unfortunate for
So
him
no
that he,
charging up.
with the chance, if he would have won, yeah, kind of unfortunate, but you need the knockout here to
Really nice.
stay in the game.
Rick already has the Ninetales in hand, and a lot of ways to get Fire Energy through the Earth and the Fire Crystal in his hand. So he's probably good to go on Fire Energy this turn.
Yeah, so he could, to take the knockout on the Deden, usually it's very easy to just use Reshiram Charizard, but Jack has a bunch of energy in play, so if he charges up, it checks for a hand, and then uses Welder, there are 6 energy, so that would be a knockout on a Tag Team GX. He would go down to 1 prize card. He plays the custom catcher, so that would be very risky for Rick, but he hasn't used his GX attack yet, so if he attacks 4 energy to a Heatran, he could take a knockout on a Dedenne. And then, well, at that point, nothing else doesn't really matter as long as you get the knockout. Or if he has a lot of Fire Energy in his discard pile, I might even use Victini, but I don't really see that coming down. But even if he takes only 1, if he takes a GX knockout, GX attack, knockout 1 Dedenne, then he goes down to 2 prize cards. He can still just take 2 regular knockouts as well to win the game from there.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to see where this turn is going. And it looks like it's going Dedenne, or maybe that's just thinning out the deck. We will see later. His hand looks too good.
Yeah,
to
it's
discard,
really stacked.
so,
It's really stacked.
let's see. He has so many options this turn. It's
really
interesting
difficult.
to see.
I think you want to set up in a position that you, even if you get stamped, you don't need a lot of cards to, like, set up in a position where you just need to hit Welder of Stellar Wish to win the game, right? If you like attach 1 energy to the Heatran, and then bring up a Dedenne right now, knock it out with Victini if that's possible. Then you just need Welder and 4 Fire Energy, like to Welder 2 and to gust up the last Dedenne with Ninetales and use your JX attack.
Yeah. Also, another road that you can go for is get the Naganagel active and just take the knockout there with Infinity. That would make the Turtonator a lot less of a problem. And if he kind of has to decide now if he wants to take out 2 Dedennes or 1 Dedenne and then 2 other Pokemon. If he takes the knockout on Naganagel now, that places him in a favorable position in terms of the opponent's Turtonator. So you would always prefer to. Oh, that's actually very interesting.
Yeah, because
he does go for the Turtonator right away.
It's really interesting because like the Victini is a really weak attacker right now, because he just shuffled all the energy back in.
Yeah, sure.
And it
So
forces a GX, probably will force a GX Pokemon come down, because there's already a Turtonator in Jack's discard pile, I think, and
yeah,
he only
so
plays 2,
yeah,
as
he
we
plays
saw from the
exactly
first
2,
game.
right? Yeah, this is very interesting because yeah, you're actually correct. So my line of thinking was if you take out the Naganagel, he can't really do anything. But yeah, like you just said, the Turtonator is the last Turtonator, so now his only Pokemon to attack with are well maybe Heatran or the Tag Team GX.
Oh,
But
and
no,
I think he
his
doesn't
tag
play.
team is Price.
Yeah, I just was
It doesn't really
about to
make
say
sense
that.
to Price. Well, Rick of course doesn't know this, but he forces him.
Hmm?
Yeah, so actually I like this play a lot more than what I would have done. Yeah, very great play from Rick here. He knows. Um, yeah, there is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's also just timeout now. So in Jack's turn, it's timeout. This is something I didn't actually expect because the first game was quite fast and then Rick scooped the
The second game was
second
also
game.
scooped very
Yeah.
early in. Yes.
So you can see how important just scooping at the right time actually is.
So now you actually have to. It would have been better to go for the quick route to victory with knocking out 2 Dedenes,
Yeah.
because you only have so many turns left due to
Well,
time being called.
Rick has exactly 2 turns.
Yeah, so should be fine.
So in theory he can still win. He just needs to take a knockout on whatever becomes active now and then another knockout on whatever. But then well, Rick still has access to his GX attack.
Oh, he
But
has
it looks
double
like
custom
yeah,
catcher.
I was just going to say 2 catch. Oh boy.
How
So,
many custom catcher are in Jake's discard pile?
I don't know. What is
I
this?
mean, if he's going
Oh
for the
boy.
Ninetales. That's actually really nice, because Ninetales control is really important in versus the Reshizard, because you
Yeah,
then you can
actually,
just
if Jack attacks now with the Naganagel, Rick can. Well, Jack might actually be able to just choose to tie.
Yes.
But he attached to Heatran, so he goes for that round. Now I was just going to because Jack is extra turn 0, so he will get he has this turn and also he gets another turn to win. But he has 4 prize cards, so there's no way for him to win this game. So he would need to somehow play in a way that enables him to tie.
Yeah, I think
so. I thought if you just go for Naganagel and then Rick, then he has to take a knockout on Naganagel and another Vulpix in play. So he just forces him to draw a lot more cards. But this way, Rick, if he gets another Vulpix,
and
he
then
could set
Naganadel
up
the following
a
turn.
Ninetales, yeah, he
would
could.
Ninetales the following turn.
Yeah, so maybe this might turn out to not be the right play, but we're going to see how this goes down. So now extra turn number 1 on Rick Verwaal's side from the Netherlands. Going for Jirachi. Yeah, he got another Vulpix. So
There's the
that's
Vulpix.
pretty nice.
He plays 3 in total, right? So it should be really
I would
easy.
assume so, yeah.
Yeah,
And
there's
his hand
the
is-
third one is in his hand, right?
he does have a Ninetales. Yeah, and another Vulpix. So if Jack doesn't have any custom catcher in his discard, so if he only has the 2 custom catcher in his discard pile,
But he grabbed one of the Stellar Wish after using a 2, so he has at least one in his. Jack has at least one in his hand. If he gets the other one from his deck, he could prevent the Ninetales coming down.
yeah, but also if Rick just benches a second Vulpix,
Oh yeah, that's true.
and he can use the GX attack to take knockout on Heatran then, and then he just needs any attacker. At that point, he will probably have some fire energy in his discard pile. So if Jack is able to take out the Heatran, he will have 3 fire in discard pile, and it's definitely not. Well, it doesn't even matter if he has fire in his discard pile at all, because he has to discard 2 and then can just get the Jirachi, take the knockout with Victini.
Yes.
Victini is easily charged up. If Rick just needs to hand attach here, then move from the Victini, then he will have the 4 energy on the Heatran, then he just needs Welder and 4 energy and the Ninetales to win. Sounds like a lot, but if Jack doesn't have the reset stamp, yeah, that's it. So let's see. Rick doesn't look like Rick benches the second. Vulpix. But then even if Jack uses the double custom catcher, what does he take the knockout with? He doesn't have any attackers left. The Reshiram Charizard is prize. Heatran is in the active, will probably get knocked out now.
We see
Hooper. Yikes.
Let's see. Oh, he can just... I don't know. He maybe just... Hooper can't take a knockout, obviously, this turn.
100, but
I'm not really sure why... like what's going on, why he's benching it.
It's probably safer because of the reset stamp.
Yeah, maybe.
So
okay, taking the knockout with the GX attack. And being like, okay, if you don't have anything, I'm just gonna win the next turn.
Well, yeah, I would have benched the second Vulpix because if you use the ability, it's always enough to take the knockout on the Jirachi. But then on the other hand, having the Hooper now gives him also the option to take a knockout on Naganage. So he can... Well, but then the Heatran, like if he uses double custom catcher, the Heatran will definitely stay in play.
Yes.
And then he can use Steaming Storm to knock out any Pokemon that Jack might use to knock out whatever, and then he actually discards his custom catcher.
Yeah, there are no attackers left other than Victini right now because the Reshizard is priced, and I mean he basically has to take with Turning Point this turn to 160 probably, or just if he gets or Infinity, right? It's just what's on board.
Either you take the knockout here or it's over because
you have to take a knockout.
You can take a knockout on literally anything, unless Jack can retreat into Dedenne and then just pass and hope Rick didn't draw. But I mean, he has one hand card, so it's actually quite likely that Jack doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
And then it's a tie, and then it will be very sad.
The reset stamp came in really clutch.
Yeah, let's see. He needs a lot of cards. Nah, he didn't get anything. So yeah, that's it. It's a tie. Right? Oh, maybe he was stupid.
Yeah, he can maybe retreat and Stellar Wish and see what he can get.
He didn't have any energy in his discard pile, so even if he didn't use the Hooper and just let the energy on the Victini, he would get 3 for the retreat, and he might discard 1 for a giant hearth, so at maximum he would be able to get 4 energy in the discard pile. So the Jirachi goes down. He thins out his deck first, and now let's see. If he gets a Welder, then he can still do something.
He would need like a perfect combination of cards, like Ninetales and 2 energy.
He needs Switch.
He needs Welder now, right, to draw more cards?
Yeah, he needs to hit a Welder, and then with the Welder he needs to draw Switch, Ninetales, and Fire Crystal. Oh no, he doesn't. He has a Fire Crystal in his hand, so. But now it's time anyway, so you can just go for it. But
yeah,
looks like he
definitely.
whiffed.
Oh, unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we see the handshake, and it's a tie.
Yeah, very unfortunate tie here. I thought that game was really interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Game 1 was just nothing, basically. Just look your prize card and oh boy, that's what's going on here.
Half of my deck is priced, okay, I'm just gonna scoop it up. Yeah.
But he didn't scoop.
Yeah,
actually at the end it kind of helped him because he got the tie. Probably wouldn't have won, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Like I mean, his last turn was just retreat into the den and then hope nothing happens. If Rick would have maybe scooped a little bit earlier, the second game, but then also I think his scoop was fine.
Yeah, it was really fine.
Yeah, so Rick's last turn, like not the last one, but before he got stand, that was very interesting because he had a lot of options. There were a lot of things to prepare for. Of course, like we didn't know exactly Jack's discard pile or Rick's discard pile. Maybe if he didn't bench the Hooper, he might have even had access to another Dedenergy X. So
also, I think he didn't expect the reset stamp, right? He didn't really play it around it and thinned out his deck, played everything he could. No, he just was like, okay, I'm gonna hold this hand, and if you don't disrupt me, I'm gonna win. Yeah. Which is a fine approach to take, but he really just got disrupted by reset stamp, and it really did his job very well.
Yeah. So here you can see the power of reset stamp. Very strong card. but also kind of problematic because you have to draw it in this single turn. If Jack had it at some point at the beginning with this Didene GX, he couldn't have been able to use it, and if he didn't get it at this only turn, he needed it. So yeah, we're going to cut for a very short break, and since this was time, we'll get round 2 very shortly, so stay tuned.
Yeah, see you.